I wanted to make. I had this idea I wanted to make pizza popsicles. It's like popsicles that have like they just look like a piece of pizza with toppings on it.
Ew.
I don't know if it's gonna work or not. I know.
It's kind of gross.
It sounds gross. I know.
Sounds like a frozen pizza.
Well, no, it's like it literally would just be like a raspberry like popsicle, but it's in the shape of a piece of pizza. So like the mold would have all.
You got to do it,
stuff.
man. That's creative. Right
I'm
there.
gonna try. I hit the roadblock. It's like I have the thing done. It's ready to be printed, but I didn't get through the research of getting like BPA free plastic or what kind of mold. I could print it out on a MakerBot maybe, and then maybe go to Reynolds and get whatever mold.
You get that mold,
safe.
and then you can pour whatever food you want in there.
I'm gonna do it, man. Pizza
there you go.
Yeah, did you see he brought in art prints for everybody?
Wow.
Dude, those are
some prints.
We need to hang those up.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, God, there's so much to talk about, especially for you, because you just told me recently you're working on Zentropa 2.
Yes.
But Zentropa 1, I was just telling you, we have on our coffee table in our lounge, which is an awesome book. But I guess what I've been really excited to talk to you about most is just that you live in this world of 3D where, would you say that you're primarily a kit basher, sculptor? Is there like a title for the kind of art that you do? Because you have like this very abstract approach compared to most sort of contemporary CG artists or sculptors.
Yeah, I do a lot of different things, but I do appreciate sculpture, and I'll take a lot of time just sculpting a character without any kit bashing.
Yeah.
But then the reward at the end is, okay, now I get a chance to decorate the thing.
To add stuff to it.
To go crazy.
Right.
Yeah. Costume the thing.
And as far as like your background as a modeler, as a sculptor, what is your history in art? Did you start with fine arts? Did you start with sculpture and drawing, or what?
Drawing. I went to school for illustration at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn. And drawing was the main thing that we were focused on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you guys do any, at that time, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do with those skills? Or was there just kind of like you were just interested in art and that's what you were going to do?
I had a really dumb idea. I was
which was
I was going to be a rich illustrator, and I was going to be so rich that I could just make my own movies.
That's the dream, right?
That's the dream. But I realized I just hated doing illustration.
Yeah.
I hated
Why,
working.
if you had to say?
This was in New York, and working under art directors, it was just really lame doing children's book type stuff, and just stuff I really hated.
Yeah.
And, you work so hard to get the job, then when you get it, you just can't stand doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you can only know so much about a thing that you're searching for. Like, you may like certain parts of it, but maybe the business around it doesn't fit your lifestyle or what you want to.
Yeah, not at all.
It's not like the CG production world, it's maybe not for everybody, because nowadays like sculpture, practical effects, especially if you're talking about film, back in the 70s, 80s, it was a very, I don't know how to put it. It was just very new, and it was very much about the art of that. But now, as you're getting into, animation, VFX, digital sculpting, all these things, the business around those things are so much bigger now. You just look at how much money we make in the box office. Like, look at Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, so much money is centered around it. So I guess the thing behind, the driving force behind why people want to make movies now might be different. Like some people just want to get their names in credits, so it's like, where do you draw the line of where the art is and where the technical, or sort of the trying to reach the top kind of thing comes into play, Right,
exactly. So yeah, I learned really early on that I just wanted to do stuff that I really excited about.
Yeah.
And
you seem to be, would you say heavy metal is like your largest inspiration? Like, you're very, it's sort of like a mixture between anime, sci-fi, classic, going back to heavy metal style. It's like, what are the largest parts that inspire you as far as your artwork and the things that you try to make?
Well, yeah, I think I was interested in heavy metal before I went to art school. And then when I went to art school, we weren't allowed to look at any of that stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They were
hateful of all that stuff. No science fiction, no comic books, no animation. It was just pure art school. And so I focused on art and tried to be as good as I could as an artist. And then after I graduated, I was like, well, I don't really know what to do now. There's no assignments.
Yeah.
And then I started to try to figure out where I wanted to go. And a friend of mine asked me, she's like, well, what do you want to do? And that was the first time anyone ever asked me. I was like 20 years old. What do you want to do?
That's awful.
Isn't that crazy?
That question really needs to happen sooner, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well.
And I was kind of embarrassed. I said, well, if I could do anything, I'd work on the next Star Wars films. And this was long before Phantom Menace. And so she said, do that. And I was like, wow, somebody actually. So I would go to the Museum of Natural History in New York and draw the ancient cultures and turn them into like Star Wars characters. And back then, all I had enough money for was like a 64 box of crayons and a pen. And
That's amazing. What a good combination, crayons and pen.
Yeah,
I like it.
I did the whole portfolio with that.
That's awesome. Do you still have it?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to check that out.
Yeah, I ended up getting on the short list to work on the Star Wars films for costume design from those crayon
so on
drawings.
Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
You reached the goal.
No, I didn't work on the film.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what you were saying is you actually did. But
no,
in
I
your
did,
mind.
but I did eventually work for Lucasfilm later on. So I did reach that goal, which was incredible. You know.
Yeah, I feel like the Star Wars is a big one. I had the same thought process in my head. I never had an idea of how the film industry worked when I moved here from Michigan. Mm-hmm. And when I first decided I wanted to go into VFX and animation, episode 1, 2, and 3 hadn't come out yet. So that was like, in my mind, I made that decision. Like, I said the same thing. I want to work on whatever. Whenever these Star Wars movies come out, that's my goal. I want to get into the industry and be able to work on those movies. And it happened way later. I didn't get in until maybe 6 years later. I didn't really have the chops to even, apply myself realistically. But, at 16, you don't know how, like, when you grew up in New York, in Brooklyn.
Oh, I grew up upstate New York, which is even further away from everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you can't really imagine how it's going to work when you get here. What year did you move to LA?
It was a long time ago, 20 years ago.
20 years ago. Yeah, for me, I'm going on 10 now, and it's crazy how my perspective has changed about just how things work here, and how the business is and how the art culture is. And there's just so much culture here.
There is.
You think you have an idea of it. And after 10 years, I feel like I'm still discovering new things about the city and especially the art world. There's so many places to go, so many museums. And
absolutely.
Do you spend a lot of time downtown at all?
I do. There's a gallery that I show my work there quite often. It's called I'm blanking out on the name for a second, but yeah, there's several galleries that I frequent down there.
Yeah.
The Hive Gallery.
Oh, I've heard of the Hive. I've never been though.
Yeah, it's cool. There's tons of stuff there, and they did a big sculpture exhibit of my work. That was like my biggest one a while ago, but I've been friends with the gallery owner ever since. Yeah. And it's great. I have some stuff there right now, but there's a line drawing show. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
How often does that happen? We would definitely come check it out.
Okay.
I would love to see it.
Yeah, they have shows constantly going on. Like probably every 2 or 3 weeks there's a new show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess for the people that don't know you, that haven't stumbled upon your work, you have a wide range of things that you're a very talented and interesting guy, and you've published books. You're working on your second book now.
Book 2.
Your book 2, which I can only imagine I'm sure it's getting better. The first one you kickstarted, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. But you're also a teacher. You teach at Cal Arts, and we were discussing some other places that you bounce around, but primarily
USC
Cal Arts.
and Cal Arts, yeah.
Okay, USC and Cal Arts. And you're teaching what courses do you teach there?
Cal Arts, I teach illustration, clay sculpture, and ZBrush.
Okay.
Over there.
Yeah.
And also a portfolio development online class as well.
Jeez, that's a lot of classes.
Yeah.
You're busy over there. Oh, man.
It's full-time.
Yeah.
It's full-time. And then 1 day a week at USC, I teach concept design and ZBrush there.
Man, how do you stay above water on that one? Do you enjoy that process of kind of bouncing between that amount of classes? Because you're also doing your own work on the side, your own artwork and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm constantly doing my own work. When I'm in class, I'm talking about stuff that I'm really excited about and getting students to do their own thing. Yeah. So I'm basically doing my own thing 20 hours a day, basically.
Well, then I guess you really found the sweet spot. That's actually the perfect, because do you kind of influence, like, do you get to work on your style of art or the things that you like to work on in your classes, or you do tailor your assignments around students? Like, as far as like what you're sculpting in clay, or like what the topic is, or what the subject matter is.
I'm very interested in what the students are interested in, so I'm not trying to push my style on them necessarily, but I do talk about what I'm excited about. I can't help it.
Sure.
But I do try to open up the class to have anyone, any type of style is welcome in my class. There is no person who's shunned or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyone who wants to come in. But the main thing, I always try to get them to look at different artists for influence. So they create their own like reference binder.
Yeah.
And each person has their own binder. Everyone has their own thing. And I go around to each student. That's a great
idea.
Yeah, and try to say, let me push you in that direction, push the next student in a different direction. So everyone's doing their own thing.
Yeah, that's one of the things especially with new developing artists, is trying to, because it's a big part of our lives as artists, is where you pull inspiration from and where you pull reference from, and picking a style or finding your own style if you have one. Maybe some people don't, but that's a huge part, is the investigation of things. Some people don't have that natural drive to just want to go and Google it or buy a book that talks about the thing that you want to make or sculpt. Some people just go straight to copying other things that exist, but I think the truth lies in somewhere in the investigation of learning how it functions. If it's a certain species of animal, or a certain body type of a human, or whatever, it's like understanding those things, I feel like, is what artists have that sort of. You get in tune with the thing somehow when you discover how it works or where it comes from, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think having a very specific direction of what you want to take in. Because if you're like, I don't really want to look at too much stuff, you're going to be influenced by pop culture anyway.
Yeah.
It's all around you.
Yeah, it's subconscious sometimes, right? Like, you can't even help it.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So you're teaching, and then you published Zentropa, which is it's basically a graphic novel, correct? It's a graphic novel it's influenced by heavy metal, but you sort of have your own take on your own creative vision of what the characters look like and the environments.
Right.
And so what was the inspiration behind that book, or what drove you to want to do that book in the first place?
Well, I always wanted to do a comic. And I think most artists that are in the commercial world want to do some type of graphic novel. I can see it in your eyes.
Definitely.
We all want to do it.
So many. I spent 2 years trying to write an art book. It still hasn't happened, but it's going to happen.
It's a tricky beast.
Yeah.
So I've tried it over the years. Eventually, at a certain point, I just gave up. I was like, well, I'm never going to do a graphic novel or a comic book. It's just never going to happen.
Yeah.
And then I started stumbling across some ways of working in ZBrush that kind of look like my line drawings, toon shading, which everyone does toon shading. It's not that big of a deal. But taking my weird characters and turn them into a toon shade, it looked like the drawing. And I was like, hey, this is kind of interesting. So I put together one page and then printed it out. And I remember I was in the parking lot of whatever, Staples, and I was looking at it and I was like, my God, this looks like a drawing.
Yeah.
It does not look like digital at all. And I was like, holy. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay. So.
Okay, you know what?
It's over.
It's over.
YouTube police. So yes, I had that going. And then I think I was messing around with one or two pages. And then I don't know if you know the story, but I got very sick. I
didn't know this.
Yeah. I might as well.
During the process of the book?
Well, before? It was like before.
Okay.
I was. It was during Thanksgiving. Where you eat a lot of food and you get really full
every time,
right? And I'm like, I'm really full, but I stayed full for like a week and a half, and I'm like, this is not right.
Yeah.
So eventually, I went to the emergency room, and they said, you came to the emergency room because of a tummy ache. You know what I mean?
That's really.
It was kind of funny. Then they did like all right, we feel something. We do an X-ray. They came back, and the nurse wouldn't even look me in the eyes. She said, "It's very, very bad."
Oh no!
So I called my family and this and that, and then we went through the doctors and stuff like that, and they said, "You're probably not going to make it."
Wow, that was what they told you?
Yeah. They said, we recommend you get your affairs in order. which means you're banking and all that type of stuff. And I was like, it was like that bad.
Yeah.
So basically it was like a growth like that big. It was like a baby or something, like the alien or something. So it came down to the final day, and they're like, well, we're going to go in, and if it's okay, we'll take it out. And if not, then we'll start, digging the grave, basically.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. It was an interesting time because it's like you're thinking to yourself, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do? This is it. I have like a few weeks to live or whatever.
Yeah. It wasn't really that immediate. Was it going to be 2 weeks? Like
well, the way they were talking, it was like,
wow.
And I saw the X-ray, and I was like, I couldn't even look. I was like, this is a joke. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I started thinking to myself, you start thinking about your whole life, and and I was actually pleased with everything I've done, and I really thought to myself, the most important thing I did was communicating to students. There's so many students I was able to reach out to, so I started realizing, well, the artwork isn't that as important,
right,
as the teaching. So anyway, so it was a lot of like self-realization and stuff like that. But anyway, but I had the operation, and they were able to take it out, and I remember I woke up early, which you shouldn't do when you're being operated on. And I woke up, and they said, John, are you okay? And I could only say 2 words. I said, painkiller.
Wow. You were like, you must have just been immediately in pain, and you just woke up and felt it. Oh, man.
And they lay you down in a Christ-like position. So they can operate. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm like, and I
guess I did know that at some point, but
yeah, I couldn't even put that in the book because people wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they said it was okay. It was a benign situation. It was like 1 in 2 in a million people actually get this specific thing.
Wow.
And then it was this brutal road to recovery.
How long was the recovery process?
Well,
years?
2 years to finally be 100% back. So it took me 2 years. But so during that time, I couldn't walk. I could walk like a little old lady.
Yeah.
Literally,
movements.
Old lady walking past me because they were trying to get me to walk and stuff like that. Which they have
Did you have to go through physical therapy and all that?
No, it wouldn't even. Okay. They were just too cheap to give me physical therapy. But they wanted you to walk right after the surgery, like literally like a half an hour later. It's like, okay, I want you to get up and start walking around. I was like, are you out of your mind? Like, my guts are going to fall out.
Usually there's like a day or 2 you spend in the hospital, right? They just are like, okay, you're out.
They want you to start walking that minute. I mean, I was there for like 10 days. But
okay. So
they wanted you to walk and stuff like that. So it took a long time. So I couldn't do anything. I couldn't really sculpt anymore. I couldn't really do anything. So I was like on my desk like this.
Yeah.
And that's all I could do.
You could search.
So then I started doing Zentropa.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating.
That was the time. And during that time, I did the 120 pages. But everything just started flowing out of me because I realized at that time, facing death's door, it's like, who cares if it's good?
Yeah.
Really, who cares? Yeah, if you think to yourself, oh, I shouldn't do this. Oh, I shouldn't write this script. I shouldn't do this drawing. It's not good enough. And I realized, screw that, man. I want to have a book that's completed.
Yeah.
I don't care and I decided, let me just do something really bad. Let me do something without any story, with no words.
Yeah.
And just do it because it doesn't matter anymore.
That's one of the hardest things that artists have to overcome is that self-doubt and that fear. Like you just said it, there's really no, so what if it's bad? Or so what if it doesn't meet the expectations of what you think it's supposed to? I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a thing that you're doing it. We do it because we love it and it makes us feel better. But if it doesn't make you feel better and the ultimate goal is just to get a temporary praise and appreciation until you move on to the next thing, it's like you're kind of missing the point, right?
Exactly.
Oh, that's fascinating. I'm really interested in that whole, because you were saying that you're going through this process and you're talking about you were focused on art a lot of, before you found out that you had this tumor, basically.
Right.
But then you realized that teaching was it had more value to you than the art did. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Because how could you explain that further? Like, is that because you get more because you're helping others and you're helping others pursue their goals?
Exactly. If you inspire a student, that student's going to grow up and hopefully inspire their children and those children's children and children. And that is much more important. I realized at that moment when I'm trying to rationalize what I did with my life than doing cool creatures or whatever. Right. So you know, so then later on when I moved forward, I appreciated that even more. I think I appreciated it, but I appreciated it 10 times more.
You had a clearer understanding of what.
Yeah, a moment of clarity for sure.
Wow. What a very scary thing to go through. But also, I mean, are you in the clear now? Is there everything? Do you still have to go get checkups? Or are you still kind of like
yeah? I mean, they
on
still
the fence?
No, it's good.
Okay.
I mean, you go through every 6 months. I did checks, and now every year. And there was some stuff that I was checking up on recently, but everything seems good.
Yeah.
So, but it's like we're all going to go through that.
Sure, it's inevitable.
We're all going to either sooner or later. Hopefully later for everyone.
Right.
You know, it's sad when it happens to a young person, but we're all going to be there. So
yeah.
Stepping back and saying, am I enjoying my day? Am I enjoying what I do? Do I appreciate, you know, because it's like you can work and get a nice house and a car and money and stuff like that, but you can't stuff that in a coffin.
No.
It's
all temporary. It's all temporary. It's like the experience is it. This is it. You know, you're in it every day. And I totally agree. I struggle with those things all the time. But as an artist, it's like we're always trying to find inspiration and meaning behind stuff that we do. And
absolutely,
for some people, they get meaning out of, you know, trying to make, you know, top row on ZBrush Central, or, you know, get their stuff featured in a magazine. And all those things those are important and they're good, but it's not always the end all be all. It's like, I feel like there's a lot of like, I see that as a blessing in some ways, because you're healthy now, you're back to being able to do what you, knock on wood. But that's gotta be such a huge inspiration for you. And you probably see things in a different light now, I would imagine. Like all of your future artwork is going to be influenced by that one moment.
Well, absolutely. And the fact that I was already going in that direction anyway, but it just kind of crystallized it 100% more. I think I've become a little bit more adventurous with projects.
Yeah.
Like I don't like, oh, well, that's too expensive to buy that camera or whatever. No, I'm like,
you're not going to hold back.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I respect that. I think that's really cool. I think that's interesting. And so Zentropa was that whole experience. So do you have, now that you're transitioning from, and will you guys pull up some images of Zentropa so we can get some visual aid here just to see it, because you sort of have this, your characters are, you're doing digital sculptures, and then you're doing all kinds of kit bashing and adding certain parts and pieces to build scenes and imagery, but then it's all toon shaded. So it's all intended to be put back to sort of a two-dimensional look. Right. That comic book style. Right. But that in itself, like you're doing that digitally, but also you do a lot of the stuff practically. You do a lot of kit bashing by hand, right? You do a lot of model kits and clay.
Stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah. So you started, I would imagine you started doing that as a kid maybe, or somewhere? Yeah.
I always felt guilty as a kid. I think I started like a little bit before kindergarten doing World War II models, like the diorama in the basement and stuff like that. And I always felt guilty because I was always following the rules or the instructions, and I had it done, but I knew it wasn't my design.
Right.
So if I could go back in time to little Johnny, I would tell him, hey, just take 2 or 3 tanks and mix them together. Yeah. But anyway, I did love that. So after I graduated college, I started to glue things together as well. And the funny thing is, when I was in school, I was always told not to sculpt. They said my sculptures are so horrible. You're just not a sculptor.
Your art teachers are telling you this? Or your
art
peers?
Teachers, family, friends, everybody.
Oh, wow.
And then when I graduated, I started working at Disney, and I would sculpt during my lunch breaks. And my friends would come over to me like, yeah, man, I think you should stop sculpting. I think your drawings are so much better. And I was like, my attitude is always like, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. If you enjoy it, eventually it's going to get...
I 100% agree.
It's going to get better. Yeah. So I've continued to sculpt, and I love sculpting. I love it to death. But I decided that I'm probably never going to sculpt commercially. Yeah. Because I don't want to lose that magic. I've known so many people in the business who are like jaded and angry.
It's just repetition of the same thing. You can lose a love for it. But I think it's good that you're keeping the idea that doing what you love just because you love it. Who cares about anything else? Because ultimately, that's where you get the most out of it, right? And you have the most room to. I mean, I look at that as a great motivator, because that's giving you something to always work towards. You're like, you want to make your sculptures better, and you want to make your sculptures the same quality of your 2D stuff. So that's something to work towards. But ultimately, if you run out of those things as artists, like, I feel like it's something I struggle with lately is like, I just feel like I hit this roadblock where I don't have anything that's really pushing me forward. I just feel like I can keep doing the same kind of stuff, but I think there's another side to it, you know, but it's like you need those things to push you, or some people do. So,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I mean, regardless if you ever do it professionally or not, or if you do it in production, it's the stuff that you make is incredible, and it's so interesting visually. If we could pull up some of these, like, do you have images in the Zentropa tab of some of the pages, just so people can get an idea of those that haven't seen the book, because like some of these images are just so unique, and it's just, there's a combination of so many things. Color palette, as far as the book itself, was there any particular reason why you chose certain colors, or is it all sort of like paying homage to like a certain era?
Well, the colors are mainly because of California. Yeah, my colors were usually very dark and dreary, and then California just so nice and happy,
right?
Pastel.
Okay,
so it's based on California, for sure. But yeah, all of the work is basically coming straight from my subconscious. Like, I didn't think about anything at all. So
a lot of times, do you just go in without reference? You just open ZBrush up and go in and just start sculpting?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Just kind of letting it flow. And the funny thing is, though, I thought that it felt good, but I thought to myself, well, this is just me just dreaming while I'm awake.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later, I went through the book, and I'm like, this is all biological. This is characters fighting biology. This is my story of me with my body and everything that I was going through. I had no idea.
Wow. So you didn't see that as you were doing it?
Not at all until months later. So now if you look at the book again, you're going to see the biological.
1,000%, because when I go through the book, you know, it's like, here's like, we have tons of art books from talented artists like you, people that are ZBrush and all kinds of things. But a lot of times, like, a book is driven based on like trending styles. So maybe it's a mech design, or maybe it's like, you know, whatever's popular. Sometimes those are things that drive people to make a book or tell a story a certain way, or it's paying homage to a certain style or something from an era, you know, 30 years ago, or whatever it is. But a lot of times the reason behind it is always like very transparent, right? But with your stuff, when I look at the book, I had a hard time figuring out what was what was the inspiration for it. But now that makes so much sense that there really is there's no direct correlation to like Akira or Ghost in the Shell or certain animes or anything like that. It's just your own, you know, I guess, depiction of that experience, basically.
Exactly.
With whatever, you know, reference or subconscious styles of art you had in your head at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Fascinating to me. But so this experience from that book, has it helped you with the second book, or did you have an idea of where you wanted to take it after that?
I always wanted to do 3 books. The second book is all full color. So I thought, oh yeah, I'll just color it. No big deal. And it was very difficult. The whole idea to color this type of stuff was very difficult. But Heavy Metal picked up the story of Zentropa, and they were publishing it every 2 months. Yeah. But they said you have to have it from full color. So that kind of forced me to figure out a color workflow. I guess I hate the word workflow, but to kind of come up with a way of coloring. Right. So that really pushed me, and thank goodness, because now I have a really good idea. I have 60 pages done. Are
you trying to keep that secret, or would you be willing to talk about that process, like what your process is going in towards getting a book done? Because that's something that a lot of people, me included, want to do, but it's a lot of different facets. You know, you have to deal with a lot of things and then bring it all together. As far as publishing, getting funding, the Kickstarter process, all those things.
Right. So I was at CTN. I had like a little temporary book that I was carrying around, and I was at CTN, and some young kid, I don't remember his name, but it looked like a kid. And he said, "Oh, your stuff looks really cool. You should do a Kickstarter someday." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." You know, because people
just something you write off. You're like,
yeah, thank you. And I said, "Oh, who are you?" And he said, "Oh, I won the top Kickstarter in the world, and I'm going to be doing a lecture on Kickstarter this afternoon."
The mashed potatoes kid?
No, he did.
Potato salad.
No, he did it's called Yorkie. Oh my God, I can't remember his name, but he did these Asian kind of woodblock anime characters in old woodblock style.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he did a Kickstarter. It was incredible. So they did a lecture on Kickstarter, and I wrote down every single word that they said. I studied it for like 2 years, maybe 3 years.
Wow.
And building your audience before you launch your Kickstarter, very key things that
that's very smart. And then constantly updating videos and content, communicating with those people that are following you, I would imagine is a big part of it too.
Yeah. And one thing he said that really helped is he said, post your stuff on social network and see what's the thing that people go for. Mm-hmm. And it was that linear thing. The people like my line work for some reason. I put up sculptures, put up videos, but
yeah, but
but then the line work. Oh, we love the line work.
Love the line work.
All right, so I guess I'll do. So when I put the book together, I had focused on doing the Kickstarter. But what I had done is I had this picture in my mind of 1,000 books in my storage facility. That's all I wanted was 1,000 books in there. So I decided to just fund the book myself. I bought the book. I wanted to make sure it was 100% what I wanted, because if it wasn't, I was just going to leave it in the storage. I'm not going to sell it,
right?
Because if it's poor quality. But I got the book back, and it was beautiful, just as I hoped. Page quality and everything. So then I launched the Kickstarter to kind of hopefully compensate me back. But the good thing about that is once the Kickstarter was launched, I was able to start mailing books out right away.
Yeah.
So we actually beat the deadline.
So you're able to quickly get everything out because of that.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
So I don't know if I would recommend that, because there's a risk.
Sure.
If it doesn't work.
If it doesn't pay back, then that's just money out of your pocket, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I did is I had all the books shrink wrapped, because I figured, what if they don't sell? At least they'll be safe for 100 years.
Them. Like maybe in 50 years, people are going to just
like my stuff.
Love this style, and it's going to be all the rage.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's entirely possible.
Yeah, I remember when I was putting the book together, I showed it to some very close friends, and they were like, this is never going to sell, because there's no story, and people want story, and story. And I'm like, well, I like it. And so it was kind of like a crapshoot to see if people would go for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the type of films I want to make too. I want to make films without dialogue, sound effects and music, but no words. I don't like words. I think words get in the way. I think that we can communicate easier across countries once we get the words out of the way.
Yeah, that's true. Well, words have become a very meaning behind them. There's less meaning behind everything. Words can just be thrown out nowadays, and you can pretty much say anything, and people get away with all kinds of things nowadays. Like,
exactly.
Just being true to your word is not something that I think is carried on through generations. Like doing what you say you're going to do, or committing to those things. Like being truthful, being honest, like all those things. It changes. Language changes that way. So I can understand. I understand why you're trying to move away from that, and I agree. Like you can tell a lot in a picture.
I think so. And also, I've written a few screenplays, and I'm never going to be Quentin Tarantino. I love his dialogue. I think it's incredible.
Yeah,
but I'm just not. I don't have that thing with words that people have, but I do have something that maybe Tarantino doesn't have, which is this art.
Right.
So I think it's up to all of us to, kind of step back and say, well, what do I have to bring to the table that I really enjoy anyway, rather than trying to struggle to do something that I don't like to do anyway. Yeah. Right? So that's the idea. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's such an interesting topic, because people that are telling you that it's not going to sell, or it's not going to be, which to some people may translate to not good, but not selling doesn't mean it's not good. Like, how do you define good? How do you define what's the best style? And then a lot of times I think, generally speaking, people, they cut those things down because they're saying that it's not going to be widely accepted by all people. It's not going to be, top of the box office Guardians of the Galaxy. It might be like somewhere further down, but that's not really the goal that everybody is trying to seek. And there's plenty of people out there that do have an interest in the kind of the stories you're trying to tell and the way that you're trying to tell it. I mean, our whole purpose can't always be to just continually push the envelope of every facet of, you know, being human. It's like there's only if that's just like a mindless pursuit. And I think through that mindless pursuit is where you get people that don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They're just doing it because, you know, they might have been artistically talented and that was the only way to go. But it's like having passion and trying to, you know, teach, giving back to others, and like really putting yourself in a place where you're not doing something just for you. I think you just have all these, the combination of all like the best things that I think just make you, you know, very, I guess I don't want to say different, but your style and the way that you approach it is very different from what a lot of people that I talk to. So it's very inspiring, I guess, in that way.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I always, you know, it's always funny when people like, oh, what's your workflow, or, you know, or what's your pipeline or something like that. And I kind of scratch my head. It's like, well, I don't have one.
Yeah.
It changes from day to day, minute to minute.
Yeah.
Which it helps to keep me. I have an opportunity to kind of surprise myself.
Yeah.
Every day.
Happy accidents every day.
Yeah, the whole thing.
It's a good place to be.
My entire portfolio, everything I've done is one big giant accident.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's cool because I've had that feeling many times, but sometimes it's just like you do have to really change your approach and not get stuck into, like you said, workflow. Workflow is. Can be a gift and a curse.
Unless that's what you enjoy. I mean, if you need things organized, you need a certain thing, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's for everybody.
True. Some people are detail oriented and like the structure of things.
Yeah,
and some people are abstract and like to kind of just free flow and bounce around, you know, use different applications. I'm sure do you try other software outside of like your standard wheelhouse? Do you experiment with other things?
Well, the thing is, yes, here and there, but ZBrush is so deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. What more do I need?
I know. You can create an infinite amount of like different experiences of how you model something because there's so many ways to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
And you can change it up and oftentimes like no one way is better than the other. It just depends on how you work and how your mind works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I've been taking some of the stuff that I've done in Zentropa, 3D printing it, then having it cast. So I have a mold. Yeah. And then you can pour whatever you want into that mold. I've been investigating pouring chocolate.
Oh yeah,
into a mold or
our coworker Thomas, who's in France, he did a bunch of ZBrush molds, like chocolate, like ZBrush logos and stuff like that. I think it's on his ZBC feed, but I don't know if it's edible. It might not. What material do you do the mold for food? What's the best?
There's a place called there's a place called Silpack, but there's another place called Reynolds Art Supplies, and I just was there in North Hollywood like a couple days ago, and I was asking them about certain types of molds that you can use that's edible. Yeah. Just you can eat. So you have to go there if you'd ask them. Okay. I don't want to.
I'm going to make a mental note of that.
Yeah, Reynolds Art Supplies.
I wanted to make I had this idea I wanted to make pizza popsicles. It's like popsicles that have like, they just look like a piece of pizza with toppings on it. Ew. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I know.
It's kind of gross.
It sounds gross. I know.
Sounds like a frozen pizza?
No, it's like, it literally would just be like a raspberry like popsicle, but it's in the shape of a piece of pizza. So like the mold would have all this stuff.
You got to do it, man. That's creative.
I'm going to try. I hit the roadblock. It's like, I have the thing done. It's ready to be printed, but I didn't get through the research of getting like BPA free plastic or what kind of mold I could print it out on a MakerBot maybe and then maybe go to Reynolds and get whatever mold making
get that
kit
mold
is safe.
And then you can pour whatever food you want in there.
I'm gonna do it, man. Pizza
there you go.
Coming.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm gonna send it to you first.
Exactly. I gotta try it.
You get the first pizza pop tester. I'll give you a whole case.
What I did, this is the dumbest thing. Don't do this, kids. Is I tried a different type of mold and I washed it really, really good. And I was like, this is probably gonna be okay if I were to pour chocolate or something in there. So let me test it. So I licked it. And my tongue was sizzling for a week.
Ooh, wow. Well,
do not.
What is that? Like a resin or like some kind of.
It was like some kind of RTV silicone rubber, which you should not lick. But it's good that I tested it on myself.
Yeah.
Just
don't eat it.
Oh my God. Just licking it was enough.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, I mean so you're doing a lot of things. You're taking these sculptures and you're printing these things out as well.
Right.
And you do these, gosh, you must have like a huge library of just characters and things in your house? Do you have like a space where you store all your art?
Well, unfortunately, it's flowing all over the house now. It's everywhere.
I would imagine.
Sculptures, because it takes up so much space.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to maybe start selling them off now, which is difficult because we have a new cat. A little Squeaky.
Likes to knock them over.
Yeah, Squeaky.
Bat them until they fall over.
Yeah. So I've been testing the strength of some of my sculptures lately. But maybe she's telling me something. She's trying to communicate.
She's doing your quality control check.
She's my editor.
She's your editor.
Doing.
Yeah. Would you guys mind throwing up some of it? Do you have any practical kit bashing stuff on your site?
I guess sculpture. If you go to this, that's
just to give people an idea of that as well, because some of it is all in clay, but then sometimes you're doing clay infused with
if you click
model kits.
Two more over, maybe one more. Yeah, this was sculpted in Sculpey, and then I used like bendy straws and soy sauce bottles and Legos to kit bash on top of this.
That's so cool.
This character.
Where did the hoses come from?
Those are bendy straws.
Those are bendy straws.
Yeah.
So you're taking the bendy part and connecting multiple. You have to cut them up and then.
Very complicated.
That is a lot. I think there's
a 4-year-old could do that.
There's a business for just a pure bendy straw, just to have one full bendy straw.
Dude, and I ordered online. You can buy like a pound of black bendy straws.
Oh, wow.
Life is good.
Surplus bendy straws.
Surplus bendy straws. You don't have to spray bait them.
That's such a niche market, but you got it.
Exactly.
That's very cool.
But yeah, my overall goal is to produce a tremendous amount of product, right? Stuff that I own, and then I want to make a movie, make my own movie.
Are you thinking are we talking Leica, like stop motion, or what would be your vision of a movie?
I would love to do a live action movie. So I'm writing a script right now that's based on Zentropa. I like it. I think it's gonna be cool, and it could be animated, or it could be a live action, almost like a Fifth Element.
Oh yeah,
type of vibe.
Yeah.
Because, you look at some of these sci-fi movies, and a lot of times they have like one or two like really cool, like interesting, memorable characters.
Of course, yeah.
Right?
There's usually one or some good, even if it's not a great film.
I got a whole library of this stuff.
You got the characters on lock, so if you get your story into a good place, it's entirely possible. I don't think you'd have any trouble, honestly, especially in today's world. I don't know if you've seen, what was the trailer, the movie I was just talking about earlier? It's vast, or I can't remember the name of it. Something. It's got a really long title. It's Luc Besson from.
Oh yeah, exactly.
What's his new film? I can't remember the name of it, but there's a lot of great sci-fi coming out right now.
Yeah, and it's like, I always think of. There is a process where you make a script and then you hand it in to script readers, and they either approve it or they reject it. Yeah, but. As filmmakers, as artists, we don't have to reject it. We don't have to listen to them. Make our own movie.
Make your own movie.
We know people in VFX. You know, you can make a 1-minute film, like a trailer or a proof of concept, and then show it.
What's amazing now is in today's world, this is the positive sides of social media, where you can have like Deadpool, for example, when they did that whole like spoof, like 5-minute clip of what Deadpool would look like with Ryan Reynolds. That was the test bed, and I think it came out that the studio did it on purpose just to gauge the audience and see, but they were already intending to make it. But still, just 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes in people, that stuff can go viral. If it's good, people recognize good quality stuff and they share it. And that's what's so great, is that you can spread the word and gain awareness. You have Kickstarter, you have all these ways of crowdfunding, and gosh, what was Veronica Mars raised $4 million, I think, to bring the whole series back? I mean,
that's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. So really, this is one of those times where anything truly is possible because we're so connected with each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say it doesn't necessarily have to be good as long as it's different. If it's like I think we're as a human race, we're craving different things.
Absolutely.
And in Hollywood, it's scary to risk doing something different. But if you have a young person who doesn't care, they're like, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to take
They got the energy. They got their blinders on.
They have nothing to lose.
Yeah, nothing to lose. Just go.
Yeah, just go. And then if it doesn't work for whatever reason, hopefully you'll get feedback. Okay, it doesn't work because of A, B, and C, and you make those changes and you do it again.
Right.
So there's no reason not to jump in and just do it.
That's such a good point. There really really isn't. There's very few reasons not to do anything within reason. I'm not saying everything. I'm just saying like passion projects, artistically, all these things that like, you know, like we all have ideas. Like how many ideas do you come up with on a daily basis where you're like, that would be a cool idea? And we just kind of write them off. It's like, it'd be too hard to do, or it's too far away from what I'm currently doing to really feasibly do it now.
Exactly. That's a really good point. Is what I try to do is I go off on every tangent that pops into my head.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's say you're working on a freelance project that's due tomorrow, right? But you're dying to do this other thing.
Yeah.
You're going to be better off going off and spending 10, 20 minutes doing the other thing. And then you're going to come back fresh, and you feel like you didn't lose anything. Yeah. And it's jumping on that inspiration when it strikes, whether it's the middle of the night or whatever.
Yeah. I've done that so many times where I'll be thinking about the other thing, but I have this thing that I have to do, and I'm just working and I'm thinking about this thing the whole time, and it's distracting me from staying focused on the task at hand. So you're right. Oftentimes, even if it's 20, 30 minutes, just kind of like sketch something out, or
you might think of it as a distraction, but that's an angel on your shoulder. Yeah, that's pulling you in a higher place, and you're kind of like,
that's an interesting way of putting it. It's true. I try and do this where, at the very least, if I don't take the time to go sketch it or sculpt it in ZBrush, most times I'm just always in ZBrush now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't have to leave ZBrush now, especially because we have hard surface, we got ZModeler, we got all these things that formerly I used to do in Maya, you know, way back in the day, and now it's just like all ZBrush and KeyShot for rendering. Very rarely, like when I teach, I have to go into Maya for technical stuff, you know, topology and rendering and all that, But yeah, it's like I try and at least write it down, make a note. I just keep
a great idea.
Notepad open, and like I have the most abstract note system. Like I probably have like 30 notepads all over my desktop, and each one of them is a different thing. And I just have like just stuff in there that eventually I'm going to go through and sort, I think.
Yeah, you can pick your favorites and categorize, and then you might even start making a schedule. Like, I'm going to work on this month, and a year from now I'll do that. And next thing you know, you're moving. Things are happening. Yeah, it's great.
So I guess one question that I want to ask you is, you know, all of these ways of creating art that you're doing, these are just things that you enjoy, and it seems like you're very clear in what you want, and you don't struggle with all the other issues that a lot of artists have with, I mean, I'm sure you still have insecurities or things that you're, you know, maybe worried about and whatever, but you seem like you have a very clear understanding of your own artistic abilities, and you're very comfortable. But with all these tools and things that you're sort of playing around with, because this is like it's a sub corner of this art world that we live in. You know, it's like you're in one area, but I think these tools could be used in all kinds of ways. And I guess ZBrush gives you the ability to do what you do practically in ZBrush. You can still kit bash. You can take, you know, an arm from another character and add that to this thing. Absolutely. Put it in a brush, drag it, and, you know, just plug it in. But are there any other applications that you feel like you could utilize these things, or is this like where you're going to be as far as creature design, sci-fi, that kind of stuff?
What do you mean by application?
Well, like as far as like, do you have any aspirations to maybe try other styles of art, or any other things that you kind of just take it day by day as an artist?
Yeah. I mean, there isn't really. I mean, the only thing that's like I've done about maybe 30 short films. You know. 29 of them were pretty horrible, but the idea is to start working with actors. I want to start getting into like an improv club of some kind, getting involved with actually acting and communicating with actors. And,
interesting.
And working in that world. Yeah. That's a whole other thing. And I always wanted to go to school. I still want to do this. I go back to school for cinematography. You know, I love cameras and stuff like that.
That's something I think about all the time as well.
Yeah, I love.
It's such an art.
Yeah,
it's truly art. It's all art. Really, it's like a lot of times I can like a movie, and it has nothing to do with director. It has nothing to do with the actors. It's really just the visual portrayal of it. And Absolutely. So much of that place comes down to cinematography. And if it's visually effects driven, of course, that's a big part too. But I think at the end of the day, the cinematographer still has to they have to be in tune with each other, right? The live action shots compared to the visual effects shots, and
you know, harmonious, beautiful thing. So that would be a new area to jump into is shooting larger projects, for sure.
That's interesting, but that's with keeping in mind, I guess, that you do want to make a full feature, right? So maybe does that play a part into, is that just because you're interested or because you want to understand all parts of what make a movie?
Well, I was thinking about if I were to go back to film school, what would I study? Mm-hmm. And I kept going back to cinematography, and the number one top of the list. Yeah. That's the thing that I love. I love lights. I love reflectors. I love lenses.
Yeah.
I love all the buttons and all the technology, old school as well as new. I love it. If I was a millionaire, I would collect cameras, and I'd have a gallery of just beautiful cameras.
Yeah.
Because I just love the design of a camera. I love what it can do. I love photography. I love cinematography, which is the movement within the frame. So that would be the next phase. And moving towards that, it's like you might think to yourself, oh, well, that's pie in the sky. You might never be able to do that. But if you have have a nice Canon camera, you can shoot beautiful short films with just a little camera. Or you can rent the most incredible cameras over a weekend. You can get beautiful top of the line cameras. Yep. So it isn't really pie in the sky at all.
It's actually not anymore. You're right.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's as easy as rolling out of bed. I always say that. Making a movie is as easy as rolling out of bed.
Yeah, it's true.
The hard thing is making a good movie. But you go back, who cares if it's good? If you're making movies, you're learning and you're going to start getting better.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I think that's a good philosophy. It's one of the only ways to, sometimes you kind of, even if it's good for some people to just try that out, because that might push them over the hurdle of just making the thing, because sometimes, people don't share their artwork, or they don't post their thing or do that project because they don't feel like it's going to be good enough. And that's holding them back from just even getting started.
Exactly. That's the whole, most people.
Right? Yeah. And I deal with it myself all the time with projects, and there's things that I want to do, and I'm like, I'm not ready for it. But you don't know until you try. At least, put your hat in the ring and give it a shot.
Yeah. Even if you're not ready, you learn as you go. Mm-hmm. You stumble and fall and pick yourself up. But that's when you learn the most. When you throw yourself into the fire and I'm going to make a film anyway.
Yeah. Have you read The Art of War?
I haven't. I've heard so much.
I'm about halfway through it now. It's interesting. It's a lot of kind of things that we're discussing, but it's not that this is all new information, especially for artistic people that are artistic, that we have a lot of the same similar qualities, things that desires and goals and things that we want. And it's the struggle has been around for a really long time, but it's just, I feel like in the CG world, because everything is so exponentially faster now, it's like you experience a lot of these things all at once.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Especially be working in production where everybody's like, deadlines are now, you got to turn this in. And, it's like everything's scheduled. And the scheduling and art, I feel like, are two very contrasting things in a way sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I could talk about that all day, but I don't want to bore people with production nonsense. But
when you start creating your own projects, you have to be a good production manager. You have to organize your own time. You have to be able to organize people. You have to pay them on time and stuff like that. And you have to put on that other hat as well. And if you don't want to put on that hat, then just be a painter.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if you want to put on that hat, it's not going to fit. It's not going to.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And I like that. I like putting myself in that uncomfortable position. I like payrolls. I like scheduling. I like locations. I don't like when actors don't show up on time.
Yeah.
I don't like any of that stuff, and nobody does. But you try to compensate for that. You reach out to them. You call them 10 times before. Right. Are you going to be there on time? Right. Don't go drinking the night before. You're going to look like hell. So you learn how to communicate and get the things across. And if all the planets align and it becomes the next, Blair Witch project or something, then wow, that's awesome. But even if not, if you enjoy the process, then that's what life is about, right?
Absolutely.
It's just enjoying the process.
Yeah, I think that's the underlying theme of this podcast, which is great. I love it. It's very inspiring. But as far as, so you're talking about your experiences, which you've worked as far as sculpture goes, you've worked with Hasbro, Mattel, you mentioned Disney.
Hasbro.
Hasbro.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was doing some stuff for them a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just you just doing sculpture toys. What kind of toys?
Yeah.
Stuff you can't talk about.
I don't know, like Jurassic World.
Okay.
I did some dinosaurs for Jurassic World, and then Frozen, did some stuff for that, and then Avengers, some stuff for that.
Yeah.
You know, it's good. I mean, it pays really well.
Yeah.
I like doing the dinosaurs the best because I just love the world of Jurassic Park. No, what's really cool is, to go off topic for a second, but I teach sculpture at Cal Arts. We always sculpt from a model, like a human. We study the human figure.
Oh, of course.
But next semester, we're all going to sculpt dinosaurs.
Nice.
So it's gonna
I love it.
It's going to go the entire room. We're going to have our own little Jurassic Park at Cal Arts.
Oh, that's so cool. Have you, I'm sure you've seen it. There's the behind the scenes for ILM. It's the original Jurassic Park, like what they had on, I guess it was the first DVD or probably VHS, but they had a featurette, and they went, I forget the guy's name. There was the Dream Team VFX team. There was 4 guys who really made all of Jurassic Park happen. And I went with my coworker, Paul. We went to it was like a meet and greet with those 4.
That's awesome.
Was 2 years ago. And the original sculptor, the guy who did all the maquettes and all the dinosaurs, I mean, this stuff is fantastic. But it's the amount of research just going to looking at, you know, bony structure all the way to muscle and everything. They really had to sort of fill a lot of gaps because even then, I mean, gosh, that movie came out in '91. And look at all the advancements and the new discoveries we found with dinosaurs alone.
Exactly.
And the transit, like those days, it wasn't very widely known that the theory of dinosaurs that may have had more feathers, or that era of dinosaur may have had more feathers than actually like leathery, you know, alligator skin, you know, but they had to fill those gaps, and you have to think about those things. So do you are you like kind of instilling evolution, the sort of, anatomy of the dinosaur itself? Do you go in and do muscles and things like that, or is it more just
gestural? It was for Hasbro. It was kind of funny. I never worked doing toys. I thought they wanted a cute toy.
Oh, right.
And
but it's like a big scary dinosaur.
They want it to be more real than the movie. And I'm like, holy crap, you know? And they're really pushing me to do these. And I was loving it. It's a funny thing. I did a second dinosaur. The first one was successful. I handed it in. They said, this is great. And I was thinking about it late at night. I was tossing and turning, and I woke up, and I re-sculpted the head. And I said, this is better. And I sent it to him, to the art director. Yeah. And I don't think they normally get that. Like, you know, this is not about a paycheck. It's about, you know, it's about something that I really care about.
Want to make it better.
Yeah. And I think that opened up a lot of doors for me working at Hasbro and stuff like that. That's very cool. But for myself, of course, I don't think I would ever want to do a dinosaur movie. But mixing, you know, I think they had rumors they were going to have one of the Jurassic Park movies. They're going to mix human DNA with dinosaurs.
Oh, I know. Well, there was a Carlos Huante concept going around 15 years ago or so.
That is the movie I would like to make. Imagine how disturbing that would be.
I remember there being a lot of backlash with that, and I was like, that would be really cool. I mean, where else are you going to take it as far as developing a story? I mean, you can't recreate Jurassic Park again, so why try? You know, like doing a sequel. The sequel was at least okay. The dinosaurs are, you know, on the mainland now. Okay, that's a development, I guess. And then the third one was just like a big showy remake of the first one with just more of the same stuff, which I liked Jurassic World a lot. I thought it was great. It did what it was intended to do. They didn't try and be anything other than like a big, fun, scary dinosaur movie with humor and everything involved, and it was perfect. But you know, like I don't know, I don't know where I was going with that, but Jurassic Park in general is like, it's just one of those things that there's only so much you could do with it. And the Carlos Huante thing I thought was a really cool idea.
Yeah, that's why you go to the independents.
Yeah.
You have a small independent group of people who just like, I don't care. I'll mix dinosaurs with babies.
Well, they did.
You know.
Did you ever see Splice? Splice was, I don't know how you felt about the movie, but the concept in itself is like kind of going in that direction. Maybe not exactly the same, but it's just doing what humans are trying to do, is manipulate our evolution and maybe, you know, change and tweak a few things. But that was more horrific, which I'm not big into that kind of horror, I guess, in that way.
Right.
You know, Jurassic World is like, the level of horror that I like outside of like The Shining. You know, I like good, and then it goes back to cinematography. You know, I like, if it's a good quality horror movie, I think The Shining is the one that definitely hits that mark.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Visually, it's all visual. It scares the hell out of me, but I'll watch it.
The movie gets scarier the more times you see it. You notice that?
You're absolutely right.
Isn't that weird?
I think the third time I watched it maybe 2 years ago again, because I wanted to see if I felt differently about it. Because the first time was like, I was too young. It was just it's a horror movie to me when I was a kid. And then I watched it again, and the third time, dude, you're so right. It
gets worse and scarier. I have dreams about it sometimes,
you know? But yeah. So do you, I mean, I guess as we're, you know, progressing further, do you have any things that you wanted to talk about, or as far as Zentropa 2, how is that going? How's your process with that? Do you have an expected date?
I was hoping to get it done by the end of the summer, which would be great. So it's like another 60 pages, I guess. But concurrently, I am writing the screenplay, which is going to slow things down a little bit.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with writing, is I tend to be a lot more conservative. I think because I've shot so much stuff, it's very difficult to write, and then the car bursts out of the side of the building and falls, you know, because I'm always thinking about how am I going to afford that?
Yeah.
Right? But because I have the book already done, whenever I start to feel conservative, I just open up the book like,
yeah.
It kind of pushes me. So my subconscious released all this stuff. So as I'm writing, I keep referring back to the book, like, that's cool.
Yeah,
you know?
To give you inspiration, give you ideas.
Yeah, kind of re-inspiring back and forth with that. So, yeah, that's something that I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah. Is that process difficult? Do you find that challenging, writing, going from, you know, being a visual person to telling a story with words?
Writing is the most brutal thing anyone can do.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, you see how many films out every year that actually have a really good story. It's very few.
Right.
But everyone is working to do the best they possibly can. So whatever film that you see in the theaters, that's the best they could do under circumstances.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
So, and I understand that. So I'm going in saying, okay, it's the hardest thing ever, but I'm enjoying it. And I think that's the key.
That's good.
The first couple of screenplays I wrote, I forced myself to write it. You know, I would set a timer for like an hour a day. Mm-hmm. And during that hour, I had to write no matter what, you know, and I would end up just spending a lot of time writing backstories to my characters and stuff.
Yeah.
But I had this image in my mind of this completed script, and it was just burning in my head. And it was funny. I remember one time, there were certain circumstances I broke my right hand. And I was still working with my left hand or whatever.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like the two-finger typist anyway. So then I have one left finger left.
Just one clicking all the way.
And I remember thinking, I am going to finish this screenplay if it kills me. And I remember I actually became friends with the people at Kinko's, because I would go in the middle of the night and I would constantly keep photocopying the screenplay every time I would do updates, and they were like pushing me, like, John, you're gonna get this done. You got this, man, because everyone's in Hollywood and stuff.
Yeah.
I realized that I can do it, but this time I want to try to have more fun with it. You know, I want to try to allow the fun aspect to push forward, and just realizing too that I don't have to pitch it. Mm-hmm. Pitch it to who?
Yeah.
Who?
You can just make it yourself.
Make it myself.
Yeah.
Man. And then if I have the book, people seem to like the book, and if I have some visuals and stuff, because again, going back to ZBrush and Keyshot, anything that I have in the book, I could render realistically in Keyshot.
Right.
And here's how it looks in the movie.
Right. So you're getting two visual portrayals. You're bringing it down to 2D, but then you have your concept for, for that dev or whatever,
and I could print it and I could say, here's what the toy looks like.
Totally.
There it is.
I know. Isn't that amazing? Like, you have all those tools available just right there. You can kick all that out. People back in the 80s are probably just like, oh, gosh, you think about all those maquette sculptors that used to spend a week, or two sculpting on a whole character, and then the director comes by and just like, Nope.
Nope.
Nope. Nope. Take that one, you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
We're so spoiled.
Well, the other thing too, which I'm really excited about, is in ZBrush, not only can I build the character, I can build the set. I've been building my sets. Like, here's the set. Here's where the craft service is going to be. Here's how much space we need underneath the set if it's a puppet or something like that.
Yeah.
So you can actually build the virtual warehouse of exactly how you picture the movie to be made. Here's where the camera is going to be.
Right. So do you find yourself doing that with all of these shots? Are you doing that in ZBrush where you're building everything?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That's such
building
a great idea.
Building the director's chair.
Yeah.
Here's where I'm going to sit.
Yeah, before we started doing ZBrush Live stuff, we were trying to do a ZBrush channel like a thing. And I remember I mocked up a whole, and ZBrush just did a whole environment of where the cameras were going to go. Like,
That's
I used the
perfect.
mannequins as like us as hosts. Like, we're just like stiff characters. But it gave us a good idea of what it was going to look like, and it helps. Like, that stuff makes all the difference in the world sometimes. You know?
Oh yeah, if you're trying to budget a film and you could virtually build a set, and someone could say that's too expensive. Okay, we'll bring it down.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do half a set. We'll do green screen. It gives you that conversation that a screenplay isn't enough.
That's so true. And I was going to talk about that too, is like you could write a perfect screenplay. It might be, you may love it and everybody loves it, but somehow if you start introducing studios, other artists, other people, just words is not enough sometimes because we all are going to have the own vision in our own head of what we see those things are.
Exactly.
But you being the visionary, you have to really give all those things out. If you don't show them imagery, you don't give them the clear picture of how you see it, they could get skewed and distorted, and it could turn out to be, it's like even Jupiter Ascending probably was going to be a great film at some point, and then somewhere along the way it turned, they worked on that movie for how long?
Right.
And it didn't get a lot of praise, but there was a lot of parts I liked about it. I could see a vision of that being better. And there's so many other movies that come into play that probably go through that process that at one point they probably looked good, but because everybody has a different idea of what it is, some people just have that good mojo and they vibe together and you see exactly the same thing. But then if it's new people, like I would imagine working in production, like you're getting a different crew sometimes, or, I guess that's why people like Spielberg use the same producer, the same cinematographer, the same, team, like the core essentials, because you don't want to have somebody new that's going to change your vision, Yeah,
or there's a misunderstanding or whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
That's what I love about Ridley Scott is he's still, even as he's the head of this giant company, he still sits there and storyboards the films himself. He sits there and visualizes it. And if you can visualize that in storyboards and also in ZBrush, three-dimensionally,
right?
What more do they need? It's like, I think it's having a clarity in your mind. And you might not know. You might go, I have this vague idea. But when you sit in ZBrush and you start building it, you start answering those questions yourself.
Yeah.
Even if you're wrong, it's so clear that some engineer can say, you can't do that because the weight is wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
But at least we've made that conversation instead of building it and then realizing, my God.
Exactly. You just go into completion like, okay, no, it's all wrong. It's
like that's okay. We spent 2 cents.
It's true.
Once you buy ZBrush once, you have it for a lifetime.
Yeah.
So all the sets that you build, all the worlds that you build are free. Mm-hmm. The world is, it's incredible.
If you had to pick your favorite features in ZBrush, what would you say if you had to call it? I just picture you being an inter-multi-mesh guy.
Yeah.
You got just a huge library of IMM brushes of parts that you've made and things that you've...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the kit bashing is incredible. But also just to be able to sculpt a clay figure just right in front of you.
Yeah.
Just basic clay buildup, and snake hook. Just really... sculpting and forgetting about all the technology is incredible.
Do you immediately break symmetry? Do you ever sculpt in symmetry?
I sculpt in symmetry almost 99%.
Okay.
It's all symmetrical. I have my students do that. I'm on them symmetrical, then pose it afterwards.
Exactly. It's safer to do it that way. It's sometimes it's fun to just hit the X key and turn it off and just kind of go wild. Just to see what you can come up with asymmetrically.
My stuff gets too crazy.
Does it?
It's not fun at all.
You're like, it's not.
It's not fun.
It's fair
like
enough.
on a roller coaster that the one wheel is broken. You're like, I'm going to die.
Fair enough. I can understand that.
It's too crazy.
Yeah, totally. Sometimes I'll try just to, because, I've done a lot of education with building characters for productions. Like, T-pose, topology's clean. You know, it's like it gets boring sometimes. That's all.
Yeah, eventually, yeah, you want to. Once you get to a certain point, then you can have fun.
But you're doing symmetrically, then you're having them pose it, and then you go in asymmetrically and touch up a few things or model after that, right? Like after they pose it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of strange things that happen. You know, it's like you could sculpt a character and you change the pose around. Like, well, what if I double the character? And now I have two of the same character twisting around. And all of a sudden you have this other character that who knows how the heck it came from your subconscious or something like that.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, I don't know when, but there's always a certain point where things start to feel too normal to me. And I'll add some kind of weird thing.
You like to introduce more abstract to give you more ideas.
To make it feel right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To make it feel right. For me, it needs to have some other element.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, man. You should come on like once a month.
Okay.
I want to get to the bottom of that, like what that is, because I think that's really interesting because, you know, sometimes I get bored just doing the same stuff, and sometimes just introducing random things into the mix, it helps kind of keep your creative energy going. You know, like you find something that looks good and it's like, oh, that's weird, but I like it for some reason, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You do the, when you do the double character, do you do a snapshot with ZBrush? Like you just shift S to snapshot it and then rotate it, or do you actually duplicate the model and rotate it around with it?
Yeah, that's what I've done.
Okay.
Or triple the model.
Yeah.
It's weird. I mean, of course it's weird.
Yeah.
Looking for something different, just triple your model, spin it around.
There you go.
It's different.
It's true. It's a good point.
It's so different.
That's great. Well, I don't know, as we're winding down here, I just want to thank you for coming on, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see you. Gosh, when is the next expo that we have coming up? Well, we have the summit. Are you going to come to the summit?
I would love to.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm going to be there for sure.
We got I think we have the Sculpt Off this year. We've got same presentation, same format, but I think we're trying to introduce a little bit more this year, but mostly the same.
Yeah, I would
very
love
quaint
to.
On the Noman campus.
I'm going to put my name in the hat for the Sculpt Off.
Yes, you
that
should.
Would be incredible.
Yeah, well, I'll put it forward today. As soon as I get back to the office, I'll let them know.
Great.
Yeah, because I
awesome.
think you got to get in there. I was thinking the first year was like John Mahoney should be in this for sure, but
it's like a weird thing to throw into the mix.
It is, but I mean, you know, we have, I don't know what the rules are going to be this year. In the past, we've had limitations. You can start with a certain base model. You can bring in certain IMM brushes that have to be, you know, confirmed or verified that they're not too much detail or whatever. But I don't think you'd have any trouble with that. But
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just want to say I've been incredibly grateful for everything ZBrush has given me over the years. It's opened up my world in ways I could never. You know, it was to me like picking up a pencil for the first time. It's been that impactful. Yeah. And I'm able to take all that stuff and segue it right back into the real world. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't taken away anything. I still sculpt in clay even more now than I did before because I'm sculpting digitally and it's getting me excited about sculpting. Yeah. So now I'm sculpting in clay more than I did before. It hasn't taken anything away.
Yeah.
So
no, that's wonderful to hear.
I've been appreciative of the ZBrush world.
A bunch of people at the office will be very appreciative of that, but I'm in the same boat and so many others too. It's been just a great tool for a lot of us just creatively without any technical hurdles or anything. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Well, before I let you go, I got to ask you this: if ZBrush ever goes into VR, what do you think? You think that's something you'd be interested in? Is that because that's basically a marriage between the two forms of sculpture that you have?
We did. I took part of Zentropa because we have a small VR department at CalArts, and we put it in VR. And I was walking through Zentropa, and it was this big, giant
amazing
thing. I'm looking way up at these giant structures, and my heart just stopped.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. I mean, you could already take your models and bring it into VR anyway.
Yeah.
Right, but having it as a component with ZBrush.
Having an entire virtual world where you can sculpt, you have model kits, you have all of your tools on a table that you can go and pick up. I mean, I find that very interesting. The technology needs to progress further, but eventually we're going to be into a place where it's feasible and it will feel like 90% of a real world. You know, having that creative space in a virtual world, I think, is a really interesting concept.
Yeah, I think the most important part about it is it gets you out of your chair, right? You start to move around and physically, because I know that that's the danger of ZBrush. You will gain 20 pounds, because it feels like you're doing a lot, but you're not doing anything physically.
Yeah, unless you're like moving with your like sculpture,
which would be really weird.
Which would be really bad.
Yeah, so that's very important, is to get you to, because I've been doing some of that tilt brush stuff, and after like an hour, I'm like, I'm tired.
It's exhausting, So
that's great. Yeah. That's an incredible thing. Imagine ZBrush or digital sculpting, people be all buff. Like,
right.
Obviously, you work in ZBrush. Look at those arms, But I think that's incredible. And I think that's important to, again, talking about physical health and stuff like that, is to incorporate that into the world of ZBrush would be incredible. It would be one next step of, awesomeness.
Well, that's good to hear, because I'm trying to gauge the audience here and just see, because I think it's something that that is, it could be the future of art. It could be the future, especially of digital art, where, like you said, mainly just getting us out of our chairs, and like I talk about this on so many podcasts, my 2 fingers are still numb from using a mouse and switching to a pen and going back and forth. And I feel like there's physical limitations. I like to think of myself as an active person, but because I love ZBrush so much and it's part of my job, I spend a lot of time doing this, sitting. And it would be nice to be able to get up and interact and move around with my stuff. And I'll sacrifice getting tired. You'll condition yourself to get back in shape.
You'll get better and better. You'll get stronger. Hours of working in VR. I think it's incredible. I think that my vision of the future was always these kind of like shriveled up humans, glued to a computer screen. But no, with this whole idea of VR, we could be physically more fit than we've ever been.
True.
It's pretty exciting.
Well, I mean, evolutionary speaking, we've, in the last, couple hundred years, we've grown in height, we've grown in size. But with all these advancements in technology, that's bringing us back down to, we're sitting a lot. We're not moving less. There's no requirements for movement, really, unless you work in a trade that has you doing that. But who knows? Maybe that'll play a part into evolution. It's possible, right? I mean, if you're sitting down, there's really no need for you to continue to grow or continue to, physically change. Maybe we will go back to, turn into Gollum.
Well, imagine ZBrush, you guys could be changing evolution. Isn't that exciting? You could be changing
basically, I was trying
race.
to set that up. That's what I was going for there.
No, joking aside. Imagine young people getting hooked in. Obviously, they're going to get hooked on the ZBrush stuff because it's so much fun. But being physically fit and thinking, as opposed to just like running around the schoolyard, but actually thinking and conceptualizing and creating, but also using that physicality, which is important, because that's why we sculpt and stuff like that in clay, because you want to feel the art as well as visualize it. Right. And this VR world could be the answer to that. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. Well, it was a pleasure to have you on, man.
Thank you so much.
Very inspiring. I'm glad you're healthy, which is an incredible story.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
For all the people that want to check out your stuff, we showed Zentropa, your site. Zentropa 2 is going to be coming out soon, I'm guessing, whenever you're able to mix it in with all these other things. So.
Yeah, totally.
It'll happen. It's going to happen. Well, we'll see you at the ZBrush Summit, yeah?
Okay, thank you very much.
For sure. Well, let's see. We're on ZBrush Podcast, 10, 11 now? We are cruising along. Well, awesome. Thanks, John. I got to give you an official handshake.
All right, thank you very much for having me.
Cheers, guys. Catch you next time.